The earth trembles with the passing of the flocks. The sun turns the sand into burning embers, and the rivers rise as a last hope. On the horizon, an infinite plain stretches as far as the eye can see. Birds fill the sky with color with their flight. Zebras enjoy green pastures. Elephants devour trees. And the baboons deafen with their chants. In this wild paradise, every corner is full of life. However, nature is cruel, and just as it gives life, it can take it away in seconds. From the grasslands emerges a figure that represents death itself incarnated in a wild feline. Indomitable, stealthy, and calculating, the leopard is a ruthless killer that will do whatever it takes to survive. And in just an instant it pounces on its prey, achieving its goal. This is the Serengeti, and the struggle for survival of its wild inhabitants. In this lawless animal kingdom, the only rule is to survive, whatever the cost. In the middle of the plain, the gazelles flee in panic while the cheetahs stalk them. In the distance, thousands of wildebeest advance in a never-ending march in search of a better life. Meanwhile, the elephants make their way through the thick acacia forests. On this plain, each wild species faces its own challenges. From the tiny dwarf mongoose to the gigantic black rhino, all must fight for their survival in a hostile ecosystem. With the onset of the dry season, water is no longer a vital resource but a privilege, and thousands of zebras, wildebeests, and giraffes congregate in the scarce tributaries to obtain the precious liquid. However, from these same life-giving streams, crocodiles, ferocious armored beasts, emerge from the waters to prey on their victims. Upstream, the hippos wage a pitched battle for dominance of the herd, with giant males showing all their ferocity to seize power in a true train wreck. Far from the waters, deep in the plains, the king of this vast wild empire watches the horizon as he awaits the arrival of thousands of wildebeest, where the herd will assert its privileged place in the food chain. Located in the heart of East Africa, in the north of Tanzania, the Serengeti covers an area of almost 30,000 square kilometers. With a name derived from the word Serengeti, which in the Maasai language means endless plains, it is easy to guess what the relief of this wild empire is like. In the Serengeti, the plain stretch as far as the eye can see, and among these vast fields covered with fine grass, towering acacias rise, defying adversity, offering pleasant shade. In an arid ecosystem where drought often defies life, the Grumeti and Mara rivers stand as a vestige of Mother Nature's mercy, providing a sip of refreshing water amidst the inclement heat, but at the same time, representing almost impregnable natural barriers. These tributaries feed sparse forests and scrublands that appear in the middle of the imposing plain, and represent a refuge for the fauna of this delicate ecosystem. Wildlife in the Serengeti is governed by the seasons. During drought, this vast plain becomes a hostile and inert place, where the grassy fields disappear, and with them, all hope of life. However, there is no evil that lasts 1,000 years, and Mother Nature, in a show of mercy, puts an end to the inclement drought with the arrival of the rains. What starts as isolated rainfall gradually turns into torrential downpours that restore the ecosystem to its full splendor. The, until now, parched plain is tinged with an intense green, and the rivers, reduced to tiny tributaries after the drought, recover their course. With the arrival of the rains, the Serengeti becomes an oasis for life. Hippopotamuses enjoy the now flowing pools, giraffes, from the heights, devour fresh leaves, and gazelles, wildebeest, and antelopes graze in the endless grassy fields. While the rainy season brings unprecedented abundance for these herbivores, it's not all good news. In those same fields where the gazelles see Mother Nature's favor, with unlimited food for the coming months, the now thick vegetation has taken care of giving the leopard its perfect hiding place. Hidden, camouflaged thanks to its fur in shades of pale yellow and orange with black rosettes, this gigantic feline weighing up to 90 kilograms can go completely unnoticed while the gazelles, still unknowingly, enjoy what will be their last meal. Despite having a set of sharp retractable claws and a powerful bite that instills fear in all the species of the plain, this bloodthirsty predator goes from using brute force to hunt its prey to being a skilled strategist. Since, unlike lions, the leopard has an elusive and solitary life, it must fend for itself in order to hunt, and cannot wait for food to fall from the sky. Although with thousands of ungulates crowding the savanna, its favorite prey are wildebeest, gazelles, and antelopes, this feline is unpretentious when it comes to eating, and is capable of feeding on prey as small as beetles to giant eland antelopes, which are twice its weight. As evening twilight takes hold of the Serengeti, and the sun retreats to give way to darkness, this savage predator sets out on its hunt, in which, with so much prey available due to the abundance brought by the rains, the chances of success are high. The leopard prefers to hunt both at dusk and dawn, as these are the coolest hours of the savanna, as it can take advantage of the darkness to hide, and gain an advantage over its prey with the help of its keen eyesight. As soon as it spots a possible prey, this voracious hunter will patiently move towards it, sliding slowly through the tall grass with its body close to the ground and its head lowered. Each movement is coldly calculated so as not to give the prey the slightest hint of its impending doom. Although it can even go for days without eating, the leopard is patient, preferring to keep the surprise factor on its side, and being able to stalk its prey for hours. With his large amber eyes fixed on his target, and slowly approaching until the distance is only a few meters, this predator sees the perfect moment for his onslaught. And in just seconds, the air becomes tense for gazelles, wildebeests, antelopes, and any prey that crosses the path of this voracious hunter. Being able to reach speeds of up to 60 kilometers per hour and jump more than 5 meters, there is practically no species that can escape the lethal bite of this feline. As soon as the leopard reaches its prey, it pounces with its sharp teeth on its neck and crushes its windpipe until it suffocates it, in an end that was written since the predator set its sights on it. After a substantial hunt that can include even large antelopes weighing more than 500 kilograms, this hunter usually cannot stay on the spot to devour his prey. In a habitat as wild as the Serengeti, hundreds of scavengers have already caught the, to them, delicious smell of fresh meat, and are on their way to strip the leopard of what is theirs. While most of the time the feline is skilled enough to take his hunt to the heights of the trees. Because yes, as a good cat, he is an excellent climber. Sometimes he is not so lucky, and unwanted visitors come to claim their share of the spoils. Although a single hyena may not pose a threat to the leopard's intentions to protect its food, with the incursion of a whole herd of these scavengers, the feline faces a challenge from which it will not be able to emerge victorious. As soon as they detect that unmistakable smell of fresh meat from miles away, dozens of hyenas arrive to leave the leopard empty-handed. Although the feline will not leave without showing its ferocity to the first scavengers that try to plunder its prey, as the rest of the clan arrives and is surrounded, it has no choice but to leave and watch these insatiable carnivores enjoy their hard work. Other scavengers soon join in, leaving only the memory of what was quite a feast, of which the leopard did not even get a taste. After falling victim to these wily scavengers, leaving the regrets behind, the feline must set out on a new hunt. The good news for him is that during this season, the Serengeti shows its most giving face, with prey stretching as far as the eye can see. Of course, on his next hunt, the leopard will be more adept, and will try to reach the safety of the trees before the hyenas come to take their, by no means small, share. Looking off into the distance on the plains, it is almost impossible for the leopard not to lay eyes on a giant black and white striped equine placidly grazing. However, zebras will not be easy prey. These mammals weighing up to 400 kilograms have earned their place in the wild Serengeti ecosystem, and they will not give in to the predator's intentions without putting up a fight. Although their distinctive black and white fur seems to provide them with a terrible camouflage that, far from hiding them, puts them in the sights of voracious carnivores, the truth is that in movement, it causes an optical illusion that confuses hunters, where predators cannot distinguish the boundaries between several specimens running across the plain. This curious color pattern in its fur also plays an important role in the individual recognition of each specimen, since, as if it were a fingerprint, it is unique to each zebra. In addition to their exotic and somewhat confusing camouflage, zebras must be alert to the slightest change in their environment to avoid becoming dinner for one of the Serengeti's countless carnivores. Thanks to an advanced sense of sight, which allows them to see at great distances and in a field of almost 360 degrees, these equines are able to detect predators before they even approach the herd, and regardless of whether it is day or night, as they also boast incredible night vision. In case lions, cheetahs, hyenas, or leopards manage to evade their sharp eyesight, in the silence of the plains, using their large mobile ears, zebras can detect even the slightest sound that alerts them to the presence of a predator. These striped ones, as soon as they hear that something is wrong, will make a quick getaway at more than 60 kilometers per hour to the safety of the horizon. After escaping from the eyes of death represented by a gigantic feline hiding in the grasslands, the zebras set out to do precisely what lions, leopards, and hyenas had planned, but with the infinite grasses that cover the plains. As inveterate herbivores, these mammals devour hundreds of kilometers of the green pastures offered by the endless Serengeti plains. Zebras play an important role as pioneer herbivores, feeding on the less nutritious upper canopy grasses, leaving the best grasses for species such as wildebeest. Although the preferred food of these striped birds is grasses, when austerity comes to the Serengeti, they have no qualms about expanding their diet to bark, leaves, shoots, reeds, fruits, and roots. With the momentary abundance offered by the plains, as a highly social species, these equines gather in herds of dozens of specimens to roam the savannah in search of food, investing up to 80% of their daily routine in this task. These feeding groups usually consist of several harems, where, in each harem, a stallion is in charge of protecting the females. In these days when the Serengeti is teeming with food and life, the breeding season arrives, and the stallion must guard his harem from other males eager to breed. The most daring males, without masking their intentions, go straight to the neighboring harems and try to herd the mares into their territory, which often leads to conflicts between stallions. When females come into heat, the stallion brings out his best tricks in a courtship that includes vocalizations, posturing, and sniffing. After copulation, in which the stallion is in charge of mounting each of the females in his harem, they will begin a long gestation process of up to 13 months. After a long day of spreading his lineage in his harem, the stallion is exhausted, and with the sun setting on the horizon, the herd decides to rest. Of course, in such a wild habitat as the Serengeti, for everyone to sink into a deep sleep would mean never waking up again. So zebras, as a precautionary measure, usually delegate a sentinel to be in charge of alerting in the presence of threats. Likewise, some herds choose to sleep standing up. Thus, if there is a surprise at night, they are ready to make a quick retreat. However, these equines will not always see flight as their only alternative to the cruel intentions of predators. When surrounded, and especially when young are at stake, zebras have no problem becoming extremely aggressive, kicking and even biting their aggressors. With their long and robust hind legs, a zebra's kick can even devastate a lion. While zebras' survival skills make them a tough nut to crack for lone predators on the plains, when the opponents are a coordinated pride of lions, there is no strategy. With dozens of lionesses surrounding the pride, the felines sow chaos, and little by little, as they close the encirclement, one unfortunate zebra is left at the center of the carnage, with several female hunters lunging for its neck with their relentless bite. Although the seasonal rains have given the zebras an oasis in the land with abundant grasses, nothing good lasts forever. And the drought gradually turns the green plain back into an arid land, where water is worth its weight in gold. With the arrival of the dry season, zebras have only two options: starve to death, or venture on a long journey of hundreds of kilometers north in search of a better life. For these equines, the decision is simple, and they embark on one of the greatest journeys in the wild. But in this feat towards the green fields in the Masai Mara, Kenya, the zebras will not go alone. On the horizon of the now dry plain, in the distance, thousands of ungulates can be seen. The earth rumbles with the firm step of the herds, and the mammals advance in a column that stretches for miles. The great wildebeest migration of the Serengeti is one of the most majestic spectacles of this vast ecosystem. In this feat of almost 1,000 kilometers across the plains, some 2 million migrants, 3/4 of whom are wildebeest, are participating in a long journey that will not be without its challenges. After thousands of years of making this challenging journey, the predators of the savannah know the route perfectly and will not miss the opportunity to hunt an ungulate weighing almost 300 kilograms. With such a long journey ahead of them, the wildebeests have no time to waste and set off on their grueling migration. During each journey, these ungulates will cover between 10 and 40 kilometers, depending on the conditions of the terrain. These mammals firmly believe that it is better to walk than to trot, as they are accustomed to moving at what for them is an average speed of 40 kilometers per hour. Of course, with endless plains to cover on their horizon, the herds are forced to pause momentarily to rest and replenish their strength by consuming fresh grasses. Here, this long journey in pursuit of rainfall has its advantages, for with each step they take, they get better quality grasses and a greater abundance of pasture. Although with the passing of the herds, they have devoured every last grass within a range of kilometers, wildebeest play an important role in the ecosystem by keeping grasslands in check and encouraging the growth of new grasses. Likewise, the accidental plowing they do of the soil with their long horns while feeding, as well as the tons of manure they deposit during their journey, stimulate the renewal of the savanna soil, preparing it for the return of the rains. Having completed their quota of the day's journey, and with the sun slowly setting, exhausted, the wildebeest decide to take a well-deserved rest. However, knowing that in the vicinity of the herds, countless predators are eagerly waiting for them to let their guard down. These ungulates choose to rest for only about 4 hours a day, of course. Just like the zebras, delegating some sentries to take care of the group while the others are immersed in the arms of Morpheus, at least for a moment. Speaking of striped mammals, as good traveling companions, zebras, with their finely tuned senses, are of great help when grazing, as they can warn wildebeests of approaching threats long before these horned ones detect them. With the start of a new day, as soon as the sun rises, the herd has no time to lose, and restarts its endless march. But this time the crunching of the earth is not the only sound that overshadows the silence of the savannah. In the distance, an ominous laughter brings a bad omen for the wildebeest, and as they advance, their suspicions are confirmed. Aware of this millenary migration, hyenas have prepared an ambush to keep a souvenir of the passage of the ungulate caravan. Although they are famous scavengers, they have no problem to do the heavy work by themselves, and hunt a colossal prey of more than 200 kilos, such as a wildebeest. Upon detecting the trap, the horned hornbills choose to swarm in large groups as a protective measure against these efficient hunters. However, despite being outnumbered by their prey by more than 100 to 1, the hyenas assert their place in the food chain, and in a display of ferocity and intelligence, in the midst of the chaos, manage to isolate one mammal from the rest of the herd. As soon as a hyena intercepts an unfortunate wildebeest, the rest of the clan arrives to support the hunt. And with their powerful, bone-crushing bites, they bring a premature end to the wildebeest's journey. After the hyena ambush, the herd must continue on its way across the plain. Shortly after the brutality exhibited by the hunters, nature proves to be merciless, but wise. Just as predators decimate the herds, as a result of the past mating season, thousands of offspring flood the herd, taking the place of the fallen. While these calves represent the miracle of life and the perfect example of the struggle of a wild species against the odds, the herd cannot wait for the newborns, and to survive, they must stand up and start walking within minutes of birth. At her young age, the calf will have to face one of the wildest ecosystems in the animal kingdom. Of course, her mother will represent a safe place in the midst of all this chaos, so she will stay close to her, nursing during the first weeks until she is ready to start devouring succulent grasses. During this long journey, the flock will witness no less than 500,000 births. With new calves swelling the herd by the minute, the herds continue their long journey at a steady pace, managing to avoid being stalked by the voracious predators of the plains, but not without casualties along the way. Playing an unenviable role in the ecosystem, the wildebeest represent a fundamental link in the food chain, being one of the main sustainers of predators such as lions, cheetahs, leopards, and hyenas. However, the biggest challenge for the wildebeest looms on the horizon, and that is the mighty Grumeti River. While this mighty tributary represents, for some species, a mercy from the Creator to quench their insatiable thirst, for the wildebeest it is nothing more than an insurmountable barrier on their journey north. Although the choppy waters and treacherous current are a major challenge for the wildebeest, the biggest threat to these crossers is found in the depths, in the form of giant beasts weighing more than 700 kilograms. With thousands of ungulates collapsing the riverbanks, and with no alternative but to continue on their already challenging journey, the first mammals jumped straight into the churning waters, perhaps unaware of the massacre that was about to take place. As soon as the first wildebeest dives in, a gigantic Nile crocodile of more than 4 meters emerges from the depths, and with its powerful jaw, begins the carnage. Although in the water this ferocious reptile is unrivaled in hand-to-hand combat, the armored killer, in a display of his intelligence, prefers to let the river do the work for him, and dragging his prey to the depths, leads them to certain death. Although these reptiles sow terror among the herds of mammals that want to cross the river, in fact, for every prey the crocodiles hunt, the rough waters claim the lives of up to 60 victims. As the herds pass through these crossings, the domains of these voracious carnivores are stained with blood, with hundreds of prey floating in the water. While for the wildebeest the scene is proof of an extermination, for the reptiles the whole display of savagery witnessed has been nothing more than a successful hunt. Possessing a voracious appetite capable of devouring up to half their weight in a single meal, crocodiles are more than accustomed to instilling terror in creatures that even dare to approach their aquatic domains. Although their ferocious displays of ferocity at river crossings have earned them a reputation as wildebeest eaters, their diet consists mainly of fish. However, as good opportunistic predators, they are capable of devouring anything that comes their way, from zebras, gazelles, porcupines, birds, and even, why not, other crocodiles. When one of these reptiles finds a place with an abundance of prey, in a display of selfishness, other specimens will not be slow to challenge its dominion. So violence will decide who gets the territory. Before the hostilities begin, both combatants will display their strength and aggressiveness by opening their gigantic jaws with up to 80 sharp teeth, and raise their long tails as a harbinger of the fight to come. If neither of the two reptiles decides to give in, combat is inevitable, and both beasts pounce with their fearsome jaws seeking to wound their rival. Without skimping on their ferocity, crocodiles usually aim straight for the head, neck, and legs of their adversary. In order to subdue their opponent, the reptiles spin rapidly in the water, trying to position themselves over their enemy and crush him to the point of drowning. If none of this works, an accurate whip with its tail can be what breaks the opponent. After up to several hours of combat, one of the two reptiles may throw in the towel, showing submission to the victor and withdrawing from the territory. Sometimes, the defeated one is not so lucky and ends up with serious injuries or even passes away. And when scarcity strikes the Serengeti, these ruthless hunters turn cannibalistic, devouring their fellows. In some cases, it is not the ownership of territory or prey that is at stake in these relentless battles, but rather the right to mate with a female in heat. After the fight, the winning male, full of testosterone after the battle, will start his courtship by rubbing his rough and gigantic body on the female and rubbing his snouts. In the same way, the vocalizations, as well as the walks swimming together, are not long in coming, and, little by little, the female gives in to the romantic intentions of her suitor. With the female convinced, the male tucks his tail under her, and tilting her slightly, proceeds to initiate a copulation of approximately 15 minutes, where roars can be heard in the distance. While some males may give up their job after copulation and immediately, ignoring their parental responsibilities, go in search of new females, most Nile crocodiles form monogamous pairs on a seasonal basis. Leaving aside all the brutality and savagery shown towards other species, and even towards their own kind when it comes to breeding, these reptiles become exemplary parents. After about 2 months of copulation, the nesting season arrives, when the reptile will look for a cozy spot on the riverbank to bury her eggs. With the most robust females laying up to 90 eggs, they must dig a large hole to protect their young from the dangers of this wild ecosystem. Just as the mother takes religious care of the nest, the male does not neglect the work of fatherhood and also participates in the protection of the nest. After about 3 months of incubation, the first small reptiles begin to break the shell and, emitting shy squeaks, ask for help from their mother, who will be in charge of digging out the eggs. Sometimes, without the active participation of the female, the young hatchlings never get out of the burrow. Being tiny reptiles weighing only 70 grams, the mother excitedly takes the little ones into the water, introducing them to what will be her vast domain. These, for now, defenseless crocodiles will need their mother's protection for about 2 years. A time in which they will learn to fend for themselves and become an apex predator in the flooded lands of the Serengeti plain. While the crocodile-infested rivers that flow across the plains represent certain death for thousands of mammals, these tributaries are also responsible for keeping green forests and thickets alive around them, forming an oasis for animal life in the middle of the savannah. In these secretive biomes, species such as African parrots, frogs, chameleons, and snakes can enjoy a privileged habitat, with abundant water, vegetation, and profound silence, or at least it would be so without the noisy olive baboons. Also called Anubis baboons, they are those noisy neighbors that no one wants to have in the wild neighborhood of the Serengeti. Capable of barking, screeching, grunting, and even screaming, these monkeys ensure that their little corner of the plains will never be silent. With a height of up to 70 centimeters and weighing around 25 kilograms, Olive baboons are one of the largest species of monkeys. Observing the appearance of these primates, it is easy to see why they are so named, as they are covered by a thick greenish-gray fur. Given their elongated snout, long tail, and habit of walking on all fours, these monkeys sometimes look like canines, like wildebeests, which see bonding as the only way to survive in this wild environment. Baboons are extremely social primates, with a very complex hierarchical behavior. These majestic monkeys usually live in groups that can range from 15 to more than 100 specimens, where some males, a large number of females, and of course, their young live. To maintain order in such a large group, each member of the troop has a social rank, as well as specific tasks. Dominant males occupy the top commanding position, leading the guardianship of the group and imposing their will based on their size, strength, and fighting ability. Of course, being the hierarchs of the troop, they enjoy the benefits of the position, having access to the best food and females. Below these rulers are the subordinate males, younger primates who will have to make do with the leftovers of the dominants, at least for a while, until they manage to hit the board and move up in position. While the males, upon reaching sexual maturity, are forced to leave the troop, the females will remain in the group all their lives, and their social rank is transferred by inheritance in a full-fledged display of nepotism. In this social structure, related females form very tight circles in which they take care of each other. Although when the Serengeti shows its friendliest face, with plenty of water and food, confrontations are rare and are limited to challenges from ambitious subordinates to dominant males for their position. In times of scarcity, food fights are routine, and often large groups tend to split up. One of the keys to the survival of olive apes in the hostile ecosystem of the Serengeti lies in the adaptability of their diet. As good omnivores, these monkeys literally look for food even under rocks. Whether it is fruits, flowers, bark, worms, spiders, rats, or even small antelopes, baboons will never say no to a meal. Living in a highly organized society, these primates often forage for food in large groups in order to be more efficient, as well as to protect themselves from the dangers of the plains. To find food, they employ their advanced sense of sight, as well as sniffing the terrain, and scavenge every inch until they find small morsels. In a behavior similar to that of the ferocious leopard, when they get food, the monkeys are accustomed to storing it quickly so that they can enjoy it in the safety of the trees. For this, they have versatile pouches on their cheeks where they store every insect, bud, or fruit they find. And speaking precisely of the leopard, this wild feline is a millenarian executioner of the troops of olive baboons. Dwelling in those dense thickets where visibility is almost nil, this predator stalks the monkeys when they come out to look for food. To avoid becoming prey to this big cat, baboons often appoint a sentry to watch the perimeter from the top of a tree. As soon as he detects the shadow of what could be a voracious feline, the watchman will emit a loud cry as an alarm signal. While this strategy usually pays off, with all members of the herd returning safely, sometimes the hunter is more skillful and, circumventing the monkey's vigilance, manages to catch an unsuspecting primate. Although olive baboons usually have flight as their first option when confronted by a fierce predator such as the leopard, when the dominant males are involved in an encounter with the feline, the situation can become somewhat violent, and, with the help of their large canines and numerical superiority on their side, the baboons are able to run the predator off. While baboons see the heights of the Serengeti trees as a safe place to take refuge from predators, other species find daily sustenance in the acacia canopy. For the lanky giraffes, these sparse acacia forests in the middle of the plains are like manna from heaven. While the rest of the Serengeti species fight a battle to graze the endless plains or take prey, these lanky mammals enjoy feeding on a food inaccessible to the rest of the savanna's wild inhabitants. At nearly 6 meters tall and weighing more than 1,500 kilograms, giraffes are docile giants that spend their days roaming the plains, browsing from high above. Not even the also enormous African elephants are a competition when it comes to devouring the trees of the savannah. Thanks to a neck of more than 2 meters, there is no leaf that can resist the appetite of these artiodactyls. Since in this wild ecosystem even plants develop survival measures to protect themselves from hungry herbivores, with long thorns and harboring endless ant colonies, giraffes, adapting to this challenge, use their long prehensile tongue of more than 50 centimeters and their strong lips to tear off leaves without any inconvenience. As for the ants, devouring some nutritious acacias for these herbivores can sometimes be worth a few bites on the tongue. While the calcium-rich leaves of the highlands are the preferred food of these giants, when the Serengeti shows its most hostile side and food is conspicuous by its absence, these professional herbivores have no qualms about diversifying their diet. Here, shrubs, grasses, bark, and even fruits are in the sights of these living skyscrapers. Of course, being a beast weighing more than a ton, a couple of fruits will not be enough, and each specimen devours up to 34 kilograms of foliage per day. Despite being inveterate herbivores, on occasion, in a somewhat strange ritual, some giraffes lick with their long tongues the remains of dried meat on carcasses abandoned on the plains. Roaming the savannah in scattered groups of up to 30 individuals, these mammals differ from cohesive wildebeests and social baboons by not forming very close bonds among their conspecifics. Except for the close relationship between mothers and calves, the members of this dispersed herd can change in a matter of hours. When it is time to breed, after a gestation period of up to 15 months, the mother gives birth to a calf about 180 centimeters tall. The not-so-small calf, within hours of birth, will be able to stand up and start running around the plains. However, in an ecosystem full of predators, for an innocent calf to run without any precautions is to put a target on itself, so the mother will try to keep it hidden. As the weeks go by, some new mothers group together in a herd with the intention of raising their young calves together. Sometimes the adults designate a female to care for the calves, while they go out to browse and drink water, in what are known as giraffe nurseries. With such responsibility and charge, the mother caregiver must be on the lookout for any sign of threat, however subtle. Thanks to her imposing height, as well as prodigious vision, this vigilant watcher is able to perceive predators at long distances. Although when they detect imminent danger, adult specimens are capable of fleeing at more than 50 kilometers per hour across the endless plains. When they are in the care of their young, mothers bring out their protective instinct and become extremely aggressive. With sturdy legs up to 6 feet long, one of these mammals is capable of taking out any predator intent on devouring its young, including leopards, lions, hyenas, and cheetahs. On occasions when the carnivores are victorious and manage to kill the defenseless calf, after having carried the calf for more than a year in her womb, the mother, with a thirst for revenge, pounces with all her fury on her tormentors. Although hatchlings and sick specimens are an accessible target for many predators in the Serengeti, adults of this species are unattainable prey for most carnivores. However, even the giant giraffes are no match for the fierce kings of the plains. Appearing out of nowhere in the grasslands, the lions surround the lanky beast of more than a ton, and slowly, closing the encirclement, they pounce with their sharp claws and powerful bite on its long legs. Although they risk a relentless kick, this is the only way to bring down this lanky mammal and reach its muscular neck. After more and more felines join the attack, the ungulate gives in to the aggressors and falls to the ground, which represents a death sentence. Quickly, the felines attack the long neck of their victim, and ending his life, they start a banquet worthy of kings with more than 1,000 kilos of fresh meat. While other felines might be able to feed for months on such a large prey with a hungry herd, in just a few days, these strict carnivores will once again be terrorizing the wild inhabitants of their kingdom. With the wildebeest passing through their domain on their way to the Great Migration, the herds of felines are not long in coming, and the females, skilled hunters and responsible for the hunt, plan their next strategy to capture an unsuspecting ungulate. When lionesses go hunting, no living thing on the plains can escape these fierce strategists. Although thousands of wildebeest graze placidly on the horizon, there is no reason to lay siege to the larger males, when 6 specimens and cubs represent an absolutely worthless prey with much less effort. Slowly approaching the herds and taking advantage of the grasslands to hide among the vegetation, the felines circle their prey from a distance. Like trained killers, cold and calculating, the lionesses wait patiently for the right moment to launch their unerring attack. Advancing to within a few meters of the herds, the felines begin a full-speed chase across the plain. As soon as they appear, the thousands of ungulates flee in panic, immersed in chaos, and in a race for survival. Although very fast, in the middle of the crowd, the most exhausted specimens are left behind, and natural selection does the rest of the work. One by one, the hunters fall upon the helpless wildebeest, and strangling it with their ferocious bite, the herd takes its share of the ungulate's journey north. Although after a successful hunt, the lionesses are eager to enjoy the fruits of their hard work as hunters. Rules are rules, and the alpha male is the one who must start the feast, taking the best part of the prey. After the alpha, it is the turn of the lionesses, who get a good portion of the feast, and at the end, it is the turn of the cubs and the young subordinate males. The latter are sometimes not even allowed by the alpha to approach the prey, as a sign of his dominance and of the position of the young in this complex hierarchical system. While females live their entire lives in the safety of the herd and are protected by the alpha, young males do not have the same fate, and upon reaching sexual maturity at around 3 years of age, are expelled from the territory and forced to roam across the plains to form their own herd. While some unfortunate young felines are banished in complete solitude, others, more fortunate, are lucky and end up in exile in the company of their siblings or cousins. These groups of up to 4 young males will face countless challenges as they adapt to living outside the comfort of a herd. One of the most important tests they will have to overcome will be having to learn to hunt on their own, since until now, it was the females who had the task of bringing food to the herd. For young males, giving chase to a large prey such as a wildebeest or zebra can be an almost impossible mission, so the banished felines often prefer small mammals, or even leave pretensions aside and become scavengers. When the other alternative is starvation, any prey that crosses their path is an option. Another threat facing these outsiders are the numerous herds of hyenas, who will not tolerate their now unprotected enemies invading their territory. Although in hand-to-hand combat, a young lion is capable of disemboweling a hyena in just a few seconds, these scavengers have the numerical advantage on their side, so it is in the exile's best interest to avoid the numerous clans of carnivores. With the passing of time, and after surviving the inclemencies of the Serengeti's unforgiving ecosystem, what were once just young felines have become large and formidable adults, ready to take over their own herd. To do this, the males must take what is theirs by force, overthrowing the alpha of another pride. For an aging lion, the presence of 2 young challengers on the horizon may be his worst nightmare, and a sign that his reign has come to an imminent end. Ignoring the warnings of the herd's alpha until now, the challenging coalition invades the feline's territory. and with deafening roars, the battle between these beasts begins. In one of the most impressive wild chapters that the Serengeti offers, and which will inevitably culminate in a tragic outcome for the fallen king and the beginning of a new era for the herd. With the shelter of some new alpha males and a few mouths to feed, the lionesses set out on a new hunt. But this time, they'll learn that they can't always get away with it. The giant African buffaloes are about to show these felines that if you mess with the bull, you'll get the horns. Living in large herds of up to hundreds, African buffaloes are majestic creatures weighing nearly a ton. Thanks to their imposing size, as well as their long, sharp horns, these mammals have a frightening appearance that intimidates even the fiercest predators. Although on many occasions the carnivores end up winning the battle and devouring one of these giants, sometimes it is the felines that end up becoming the prey, with a giant bull of more than 1,000 kilograms following them at full speed. For lions, such a generous prey as an African buffalo can mean food for the whole pride. So, ignoring all warning signs, the felines plan their ambush. The hunting strategy is not very different from the one used against the wildebeest. The lionesses, bordering the herd, will launch their surprise attack from several flanks, trying to capture an unwary ungulate. However, this time the ruthless hunters will encounter a completely different scenario, as the buffaloes, instead of fleeing in terror, will take refuge in the group and confront the felines. Taking up a defensive position with the calves and elders in the center of the herd, and the largest and strongest animals guarding the borders, the lionesses collide head-on with the unfriendly bulls, which, knowing the predator's intentions, are ready to give them what they deserve by ramming them with their big horns. In these failed hunting attempts against buffalo, lionesses can be seriously injured, and in the worst-case scenario, the pride returns with an empty stomach and a few less members. Despite this impressive show of strength by the buffaloes in subduing the kings of the savannah, in these power-to-power confrontations on the Serengeti plains, either side can win, and sometimes it is the ungulates that suffer losses in their herd. In some cases, in a clear demonstration of the harshness of this ecosystem, after losing a member of the herd, the larger bulls immediately trot towards the feline territory, where the defenseless cubs await the return of their mothers. Upon returning from the hunt, the females get a very unpleasant surprise with their young as victims of the vengeful desires of these huge beasts. Having sent a clear message to the kings of the plains, the buffalo return to their quiet life grazing in large herds across the green savanna. With vast territories covered with fresh grasses, these ungulates have no time to waste and are busy devouring all kinds of nutritious grasses. Unlike other species in this hostile ecosystem that do not need to drink water, African buffaloes are highly dependent on this vital liquid, consuming up to 40 liters per day during the hottest days in the Serengeti. To maintain order in large herds, these hornbills are organized in a hierarchical system of almost linear dominance, in which the oldest and largest specimens guide the fate of the herd. While the older males have a position of power over the young, to ensure the growth of the herd, the alpha may allow them access to the females, rapidly increasing the number of offspring. Despite having a complex social structure based on ranks, African buffaloes often show a surprisingly democratic behavior when making decisions. Above all, groups of females may conduct a kind of voting in which, after resting, they get up and lie down in the direction they want to go. After about an hour, the herd, leaving dominance aside, will follow the path decided by the majority. Although the large dominant males have shown all their ferocity, even subduing the kings of the plains, they do not always have such a hostile attitude. Occasionally, these giant adult bulls engage in games with other males. approaching slowly with horns down and emitting a subtle mooing sound. One male approaches another in the hope that the latter will do the same. If the response is positive, both bulls will turn their horns from side to side and rub their face and body against their opponent. Games aside, during the rainy season, when the females give birth to calves, the brave bulls will personally take care of their offspring, as well as the busy mothers. For their part, when the plains become arid and parched again, they will form bachelor groups in which they will live together until the return of the rains, when competition for females again becomes a priority. While herds of buffalo roam the plains with their characteristic dark fur, like the night itself, other species inhabiting the Serengeti stand out more for filling this biodiverse ecosystem with color, with striking plumage. Such is the case of the majestic flamingos. With a height of up to 1.5 meters and a stylized pink plumage, these birds are the living example of the vast diversity of species that inhabit this infinite plain. While gazelles, zebras, and wildebeests find the choppy waters of the Grumeti and Mara rivers a murky end, these beautiful birds see the calm tributaries of Lake Ndutu as a haven for wildlife. Teeming with algae and rich crustaceans, these alkaline waters offer everything flamingos need to survive, so the abundance here often attracts thousands of flamingos. With large flocks appearing on the horizon, these birds soon land to enjoy the rich ecosystem. Quickly, the new arrivals dip their peculiar wavy beaks into the water to catch algae, mollusks, crustaceans, and any snacks rich in carotenoids, the substance that gives them their striking pink coloration. Flamingos have a completely specialized digestive system that allows them to filter the food in their beaks and drain the water ingested in each mouthful. Thanks to the abundant nutrients in their diet, these birds require only about 270 grams of food. In the case of the young hatchlings, the parents regurgitate a substance called crop milk, which, of course, is pink in color, and will sustain the young chicks during their first days of life. While the adult birds show off their bright plumage and fill the lake with color, the young chicks are born with a much more discreet plumage in shades of gray and white. As soon as they are born with a diet rich in carotenoids, the parents will ensure that little by little, the young chick will dye its white and fluffy plumage. During the time that the parents keep their young, the adults often turn a little pale from the effects of one more mouth to feed. However, it is a price they are willing to pay for the welfare of their chick and the growth of the species. In addition to their parental responsibilities, flamingos tend to have a busy routine. After spending much of their time searching for food, these birds do not forget to take care of their striking plumage and spend long periods of time preening their feathers, removing parasites and vegetation debris. This, more than a mere vanity behavior, represents an important measure to maintain their delicate thermal insulation capacity. With their plumages already groomed, these pink birds engage in strengthening their social bonds in the colony through a wide repertoire of vocalizations, as well as through bodily displays. These relationships are crucial to maintaining colony cohesion and ensuring the survival of the species. Some specimens even establish important bonds of friendship. After a long day with the sun setting in the west, the colony sets out to rest to regain strength for a new dawn. Here, these colorful birds, in addition to being able to sleep standing up, in a display of unparalleled balance, pick up one of their legs and plunge into a deep sleep. Keeping only one of their limbs in contact with water helps these birds to avoid unnecessary heat loss and regulate their temperature, even on the coldest nights on the plains. Once the night has passed without any eventuality, the colony begins a new routine of feeding and enjoying the abundance of the season. Despite their inefficient camouflage, these birds are a highly privileged species in the wild ecosystem of the Serengeti, as they have no natural predators. Although chicks and eggs are the target of opportunistic predators such as foxes and jackals, with few exceptions when large birds of prey venture out to hunt this beautiful species, they have little to worry about. Living in lagoons with high salinity and alkalinity, not many predators even consider approaching these extreme environments. Likewise, the large size of the colony, as well as a constant surveillance of their environment, usually deters the main hunters of the plains. If, circumventing all this complex security system, a predator manages to approach the colony, they will not hesitate to show a little-known defense instinct and attack their aggressors with pecks and flaps. With colonies that can number in the thousands, messing with one can mean having hundreds of large birds attacking the invader. While the flamingos live peacefully in community, enjoying their wetlands and staying out of reach of predators, deep in the plains, packs of African wild dogs organize to go hunting. These ferocious canids, about 1 meter tall and weighing up to 40 kilograms, stalk the savanna in groups of no more than 20 specimens, terrorizing all types of herbivores. With a spotted coat in shades of brown, black, and white, and distinctive round ears, the also known as African wild dogs are a simply unmistakable species even amidst the teeming life of the Serengeti ecosystem. If species such as lions and hyenas are widely recognized as skilled gregarious hunters, wild dogs are by no means far behind, being considered one of the most efficient carnivores when hunting, with a success rate of over 80%. When hunting, these dogs divide the pack into small groups in order to surround their prey. Since they do not have the same ferocity as lionesses, wild dogs compensate for this lack with numerical superiority and an overwhelming stalking strategy. In the midst of the chaos of the hunt, the dogs, as experienced strategists, keep in close communication through vocalizations and body postures to close any possibility of escape for the prey. After separating herbivores such as wildebeest, impala, antelope, and zebra from the herd, the hunters chase their target across the plains for long distances, during which the terrified prey gradually begins to feel fatigued. After running distances of up to 5 kilometers and being chased by a large pack of hungry dogs, the prey gives in to fatigue and succumbs to the carnivores. Quickly, the herd arrives on the scene and with their sharp teeth delivers the coup de grace to the prey. While in the lion hierarchy, the female hunters must wait for the alpha male to begin the feast. In the complex social system of the wild dogs, the pups are the ones who have the honor of inaugurating the prey. After the pups, the rest of the pack will take their share. Here, distancing itself from the rest of the carnivores of the savanna, the pack, in a show of altruism, makes sure that each of its members participates in the feast. Occasionally, some dogs even regurgitate part of their food and share it with their conspecifics. Although their cooperative feeding attitude is very impressive, this is only a small sample of the fascinating social behavior of these canids. Contrary to lions, where males are expelled from the pride upon reaching sexual maturity, in the social structure of wild dogs, females are the ones who are displaced and forced to look for a new pride. This behavior creates a high ratio of males to females in the group, up to 3-to-1. While in the hyena world, the clan is led by an all-powerful matriarch, and an alpha does the same in feline packs, wild dogs choose to entrust the future of the pack to a dominant pair, usually made up of the longest-lived individuals. Despite not having a well-defined breeding season, when the Serengeti plains are filled with abundance, it is a sort of signal from Mother Nature for these canids to grow the pack. Of course, in an environment where resources are often scarce, wild dogs cannot make the mistake of saturating themselves with new pups, as each one will represent a mouth to feed. With only one litter, meaning up to 16 pups, as a population control measure, the dogs limit reproduction to the dominant pair. After a gestation period of about 70 days, the mother will give birth to the tender cubs, which will be jealously guarded by her, even preventing other members of the herd from approaching. After 3 to 4 weeks in the safety of the den, under the meticulous care of their mother, the cubs see the outside for the first time. Being exclusively breastfed until they are 5 weeks old, as they begin to incorporate new foods into their diet, the zealous mother tolerates other dogs coming to regurgitate meat for her pups, thus helping her with breeding. Although on the one hand, these skilled carnivores are the bane of countless herds of ungulates, this by no means means that they do not face their own challenges. In the Serengeti, predators can become prey in a matter of seconds. And in this regard, both hyenas and lions have taken it upon themselves to lay siege to packs of wild dogs, while hyenas, faithful to their scavenging behavior, are accustomed to stealing the dog's prey. Lions, far from beating around the bush, are more inclined to kill these efficient hunters, thus eliminating their direct competition in the food chain. While in the middle of the wild plains, African wild dogs see long endurance races as a way to get their prey, not far from their territory. Another ferocious killer uses speed as his best tool. Reaching speeds of over 100 kilometers per hour across the savannah, when the cheetah is chasing prey, running makes no sense at all, as the prey can never escape from the fastest land animal on the planet. With a much lighter build than its feline relatives and an aerodynamic and flexible body, the also known as cheetah is a beast born to run. Its non-retractable claws, in addition to helping it catch its prey, provide the perfect grip during its fleeting runs, and its long tail allows it to change direction at high speed in just fractions of a second. As a good feline with a spotted coat, the cheetah finds in stealth its best strategy to catch its prey. Without the help of a herd, this predator must be precise and accurate. The slightest miscalculation can cause the prey to detect its dark intentions and end up with an empty stomach. Hiding in the tall grass and advancing at a slow pace, the predator plans his ambush while the African sun reflects in his bloodthirsty gaze. Since its status as a solitary predator and its less robust body prevent it from hunting large prey such as African buffalo, this feline chooses to eat a diet where gazelles, antelopes, wildebeests, and impalas are targeted. Although it is capable of catching up with any prey over short distances, if the cheetah is chased for more than a minute, it will be in serious trouble, as its sprinting abilities make it a lousy long-distance runner. After a 100-meter sprint, the feline's body temperature rises to 40 degrees Celsius, while its heart beats 250 times per minute, a state it could never endure for long distances. For this reason, before starting its brief but extreme chase, the predator makes sure to have the surprise factor on its side. Watching from a distance, without even moving a muscle, the feline fine-tunes the last details of his ambush, and, when he finds the right moment, in just milliseconds, a voracious predator appears from the middle of the plain at full speed behind the terrified herbivores. Although they do their best to escape from the hunter by running and zigzagging against such a formidable adversary, any attempt to escape is futile. During the chase, far from imitating lionesses by using its bite as a first resort to break the prey, the cheetah, in a kind of sweep, using its sharp claws, usually knocks the animal down with a trip. After falling at such a speed, the prey usually presents important fractures, so the cheetah finishes the job by suffocating it with a direct bite to the neck. In the Serengeti, for a defenseless herbivore, the only thing worse than being chased by a voracious feline at over 100 kilometers per hour is to be the target of up to 5 felids. Although female cheetahs tend to live in the solitude of the plains, without close encounters with other cats except during the breeding season, related males, often siblings, may form coalitions. These groups of no more than 5 cats represent a significant advantage for their survival in a habitat where solitude can be a death sentence. Coalitions of cheetahs have the ability to hunt larger prey, such as zebras, kudu, or large wildebeest. Likewise, when protecting territory from other invading males, numerical advantage can always decide the outcome of the conflict. With a group of usually 2 or 3 males guarding the territory boundaries, there are few reckless felines that will even dare to challenge their dominance. Leaving aside their displays of ferocity and savagery against ungulates and other herbivores, the truth is that, despite their prodigious skills as hunters, cheetahs are extremely fragile in confrontations against species such as lions, hyenas, and leopards, which, being more robust and having numerical superiority on their side, will not hesitate to steal their prey and even get into physical combat in which the cheetahs get the worst of it. Although these wild clashes are part of nature and the struggle of each species in this magical ecosystem, by far the greatest threat to the wild inhabitants of the Serengeti is the influence of human activities within this biome. According to estimates, practices such as poaching claim the lives of more than 200,000 animals each year, including lions, cheetahs, hyenas, wildebeests, zebras, and giraffes. A separate case is that of species such as the majestic African elephants or the colossal black rhinoceros, which are brutally pursued by poachers to get, respectively, their long ivory tusks or their imposing horn. With the horn of this glorious mammal being illegally traded for more than $300,000, poaching of this giant has driven its populations into the red, placing it today in critical danger of extinction. As a result of the booming wildlife black market, every year thousands of lion and leopard cubs are separated from their mothers and their natural habitat to be traded to the other side of the world, where the cubs are raised as pets, forever abandoning their original wild lifestyle. Climate change is another of the dangers facing the Serengeti's animal species. In a delicate ecosystem where the balance between rainfall and drought governs life, the effects of global warming are wreaking havoc on the seasons, with longer dry seasons and torrential rains that can cause major flooding. In 2007, as a result of a season of intense rainfall, the Mara River increased its flow exponentially, leading to the death of more than 15,000 wildebeest on their Great Migration. Similarly, in recent years, rising temperatures, together with deforestation and the expansion of agriculture, have contributed to the desertification of large areas of the plains, altering the soil cycle and taking with them the green grasslands vital for millions of herbivores, thus altering the entire ecosystem's food chain. Although current prospects are far from the most encouraging, the good news is that this oasis in the middle of the African continent today remains a haven for wildlife, and with measures aimed at its preservation, can continue to shelter the most captivating animal species and serve as a stage for their millennia-long struggle for survival. Have you been fascinated by the biodiversity and wildlife stories of the Serengeti's inhabitants? Why don't you support us by leaving your like and subscribing to our channel, where you can learn more about the amazing wild creatures of our planet? If you want to keep up to date with our reports, you can also click on the notification bell. And don't forget to share this video with your friends, so they can also learn about the majestic Serengeti and the animal stories in the endless plains. Without further ado, see you next time with another wildlife story.